A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the media corps of Trinidad and Tobago, and all of the people who look locally, regionally, and internationally and listen to that which you report. A very good morning to all. I come before you this morning as a public servant, in particular as the Minister of National Security, to speak to you in light of the fact that I am not unaware that there is a tremendous amount of disinformation, misinformation, some of it on the basis of sheer ignorance, and a lot of it on the basis of malice and misleading. And I consider it my duty, when there is malice and misleading particularly, to come to you, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, and to set the record straight and hopefully to set the captives free. I spent the entire day yesterday as Minister of National Security on the beautiful island of Tobago, where I had the occasion to speak to the Chief Secretary and visited his office for that purpose. He expressing his concerns in respect of the island of Tobago as it relates to security. Actually, I went to Tobago on the invitation of the Commissioner of Police to witness and to participate and deliver the keynote address, as one of our international partners, the United States, made available to the tourism-oriented police section of the police service 12 e-bikes, electrically powered bikes, battery-powered bikes, which will aid in their efforts to fight crime on the island and to protect the citizens who come, well, the visitors in particular, and citizens of Trinidad who go to vacation in our sister isle from the hands and the deeds of criminals. So I was quite pleased to be a part of that, and I took the opportunity once on the island to visit the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force Reserves, their base in Tobago, Camp Signal Hill, which is the base of the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment, another formation of the Defense Force, and as well I visited the operational center and the base at Milford for the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard. Those, alongside my visit with the Chief Secretary, all had to do with matters to improve the security of this platform in the interest and for the benefit of the people of Trinidad and Tobago and our visitors, particularly recognizing the role that tourism plays in the economy of Tobago and the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. The Prime Minister delivered the keynote address last week, Friday, at the opening of the St. Clair Police Station. As you know, that would have followed the opening of the Shervan Police Station in Tobago, where I was. Recently, the Roxborough Police Station in Tobago, the Maracas Police Station in St. Joseph, the St. Joseph Police Station as well, the Caranage Police Station. All of those developed for use by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service at great public expense to the tune of millions, again designed with one purpose in mind, that is to improve the security and safety platforms of and for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. As the Prime Minister explained last Friday in his keynote address, those are just some of the things that we do in this regard. One of the things we did as well was to formulate the thought of extending the bail provisions as they stood in Act number 17 of 2019, so that the bail of criminals, repeat, permanent, regular criminal offenders with 5 and 10 repeat offenses, their liberty should be restricted. And to achieve that, one had to attend to Section 4 and Section 5 of our Constitution, and it required, as I had discussed with you earlier, a supermajority. It required the support of our friends on the other side in the Parliament. And I heard foolishness about that is all we relied on. I've given you a little synopsis of some of the things we do a moment ago to demonstrate that it is a quilt, if I may use my grandmother's favorite expression, and it requires little bits of different color cloth to complete it, to make a soft, safe, secure blanket for you, Trinidad and Tobago, and our citizens to rest your heads upon. We did not get the support of the opposition on that occasion. And the Prime Minister would have spoken last Friday, as I indicated, and in the main, he addressed the question, and proudly so, admirably so, showing his intellectual strength, showing his familiarity with all aspects of government policy. He was at pains to explain some of the things we do by way of maintaining safety and peace and law and order in the country, and called on the parents of this country, as a parent himself, as a citizen of the Republic, as a member of Parliament, as the Prime Minister of the Republic. And I saw, after he spoke at length about the role and responsibility of the parent, I saw very favorable commentary from across the national community in response to his wise and sensible observations. But alas, there must be those in sweet Trinidad who will take objection to even the truth and the power of that which he would have said. And so, among them, Rodney Charles, a member of Parliament for the UNC, the member for Naparima, a very loud, articulate, ignorant, sometimes apparently compelling noisemaker. So he jumped in yesterday on Sunday morning in their usual Sunday morning jaunt. And he took issue with the Prime Minister's encouragement, the Prime Minister's call to parents of this country to be better parents, because all of us know a lot that happens in the life of an individual is shaped by what would have happened in his formative years as a child in the home. All of us know that by the time the law and lawyers and magistrates and judges and probation officers and police and YTC, or the Youth Training and Rehabilitation Center, comes alive in the life of a youngster, a lot would have happened before that, for which the adults who had the responsibility of nurturing and bringing up this youngster would have been significant. Nothing to quarrel about in that. Everybody know that. But not so with Rodney Charles. He jumps out Sunday morning using the media and tells the country that the Prime Minister attacked parents, attacked single mothers. I had to listen. I was present in the front row as Minister of National Security when the learned and experienced as a parent Prime Minister spoke. I heard nothing about single mother, yet the member for Naparima had the temerity, the gumption, the gall to come in front of us as a nation and absolutely told a lie. And not one of you in the media since then Because when they talk, they have the habit of talking now in their press conferences in a bubble somewhere, from a bar somewhere where you can't reach them. In the rum shop. But you know, we are very accessible. This is the umpteenth time that I have asked you to come here and sit manfully and answer every question that you provide. And the Prime Minister does it regularly. Up to last Thursday in the post-cabinet meeting, he interfaced with you on behalf of the people, being the most accessible Prime Minister, the most transparent of all that we could even remember in recent times. Even the member for Siparia, well, she's in a triple bubble. She's in a world by herself, cloud 9. Talking, you don't have an opportunity to ask questions. But the next time you see them, because every time I go to Parliament, you know, I see elements of the media taking my pity with my not-so-Catholic face. And I don't see you getting there to ask her questions. So I was obliged to raise a couple this morning for you, on your behalf. He spoke about a myriad of things, like a chicken scratching around. Even chickens do it not aimlessly. They're looking for worms. They're looking for things to sustain themselves and their chicks or their babies, but not Rodney Charles. He just scratch around for dirt sake. I listened to the man this morning. I listened to the Prime Minister just to see. Nothing about single mothers, but he criticizes the Prime Minister, who was telling young people as well, for God's sake, do not waste your time. Use your days, use your hours sensibly, productively. Develop yourself. The Prime Minister said you have responsibility for your life, even in this business of crime. The first police officer, the first judge is you, the individual, thinking soberly, thinking rationally, understanding that your actions will put people around you at pain and at risk. Don't you see the long hours that many mothers and wives and girlfriends spend outside of the Royal Jail, as we used to call it, and Golden Grove, when their sons or daughters find themselves in there? Finding money, borrowing money, sending money, buying things, carrying and wandering, paying lawyers. And I mean, the man hours lost in that kind of exercise is tremendous. The pain. And all the Prime Minister was doing is asking young people to make good decisions. Don't waste your time. Otherwise, I saw a 16-year-old lose his life over the weekend. May his little soul rest in peace. In the morning, early morning of his life, he's gone. Because he and a couple other teens were liming, as the Prime Minister alluded to, most likely, in the wrong place. And for those of us who know more, I could tell you it was the wrong place. And the Prime Minister said it too, you know. A lot of times the youth in his youthful ignorance, in the energy of youth, drifts around if he doesn't have proper parents to guide him and to hold him tight when necessary. Finds himself in the wrong place and often at the wrong time and become an unfortunate statistic. Rodney Charles couldn't hear that. All he could hear is the Prime Minister was blaming parents for crimes. And I want you, the media, to ask him where he heard that. What kind of rum he drink? Where he get a special high? The Prime Minister spoke specifically about the angels, and we have all seen them. You've been to graduation ceremonies of the primary schools, these young, innocent children, beautiful. And then between 9 and primary school and very early in their secondary school years, we see a very severe transformation resulting in videos of extreme violence, including females as well. 15 years, 16 years. That was the Prime Minister's concern. I reported to you, members of the media, that I have information supported by people who came, including a school principal, and complained to me as member of parliament. And then I did a bit of a survey to confirm what I had heard, that there are children as young as 8 and 9 and 10 years old roaming the streets of my constituency and other parts of Trinidad at 1 a.m. in the morning, 1:30 a.m. And when I asked the adults who confirmed this to me, they told me that the children are engaged in smoking marijuana in some cases, gambling, drinking alcohol, an undesirable state of affairs, for which parents do have some responsibility. Yet Rodney Charles implies that it is not the failure of the parents, but it is the government responsible for that. I don't know who he means, because the government is you. You gave me the job to speak in the parliament, one of 41 of us. In fact, one of 71 when you add the Senate. But the government is you. And I trust that you will make sure your children are not on the street at those hours. But Rodney Charles now attacks the Prime Minister. So I came here this morning to debunk his lie, his malicious and vicious lie. And I want to demonstrate to you, ladies and gentlemen, Trinidad and Tobago, that the Ministry of National Security is one arm of the government. The Ministry of Youth Development and National Service, which I had the honor to birth on the direction of the Cabinet and the Prime Minister, it was his contemplation that led to the establishment of the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service. And he asked me, as a mature and experienced parliamentarian and parent myself, to go there and work with the permanent secretary and the other technocrats and build that, all for the benefit of the young people. The very Rodney Charles, he was nowhere around at the time. He still is nowhere, as I told you, somewhere in the cloud. Inexperienced, but very noisy, like a duck. Quack, 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 all over the place. And I told the people in Tobago yesterday, you know, by all the shouting, with all of the talk, we all have to talk. But by all of that, when we see problems, as we do, and there are many, many, many problems to be fixed in this country, it is not talk. It is not emotions. It is not babbling and scandal and maliciousness, which he personifies, in my humble view, that will fix it, you know. It is work. W-O-R-K, work. All of us, from captain to cook, media and politician, judges, masons, carpenters, every one of us who form part of the workforce and who get paid to do whatever we have to do. We all have to work. And nobody will disagree with me that part of the problem we face here is that many of us who are on the payroll and want to be on the payroll, not too interested in the work. And as a result, the problems seem to proliferate. But I promise you, I work and will continue so to do. Sunday to Sunday, doing what I have to do as a Minister of National Security. And clearly there are others who have other responsibilities, including parents. So I just wanted to say, I have in my hand here a number of cabinet notes. I am not privileged to share all of the contents, but I took the liberty and broke stride so that you, Trinidad and Tobago, will get an understanding of what we're talking about. The very Rodney Charles who now talks loudly and try to outdo the best UNC to prove he's the strongest and the best UNC for whatever warped reasons I don't understand. But there is where he is. The very UNC came to office in 1995 and shut down every youth camp in this country. You members of the media, do you remember that? Those were youth establishments. And I don't know why they did it. Speculated is just sheer ignorance, possibly politically stupid because the PNM established those, possibly discriminatory on some ground. I don't know, but they did that. And it was when we returned to government in 2001, we began to rebuild these programs, and you would see the Civilian Conservation Corps, you will see MyLAT, you will see MyPart, and all these youth programs which we brought the Defense Force with their experience, their training, their discipline to bear in teaching those youths in a specialized youth program which exists to today. And when you look Independence Day, Emancipation Day, all national holidays, you see these young people adorned in their cadet uniforms, feeling proud. I went to their graduation recently, the PSNI, and you hear them speaking about the opportunities that they have had in programs like that. Several of them have gone on, and the Prime Minister has asked me, and we are now working to find a pathway for them between MyLAT, MyPart, CCC. Once they lived up to the standard, even if they don't have the 5 CXCs, including math and English, that the soldier and the police must have. Once they successfully complete those and other youth programs, we should find a pathway for them to have a place in the police and in the immigration and in the customs and in the defense force and certain kinds of activities where these basic skills that they would have used and learned and acquired, and the discipline most of all, in these youth programs could take them and they can contribute. I heard Rodney Charles say last Sunday that the UNC will raise the standard from the 5 CXCs to an associate degree to become a member of the police service. Well, I don't know where he get that. But the experts will decide on whether that is just downright stupid or whether it has some validity. For the time being, I know if you did that, even with 5, including math and English, up to yesterday a citizen of my constituency called, and I had to say to her, as we say to all the young people, the first exam you write for CXC after leaving secondary school, according to the government's policy for you as a young person, is free. These exams are available in January and June. That's twice a year. And the one who called me yesterday, she left secondary school. She's now 27, so she would have left around 10 years ago. She has 3 passes. She does not have math and English. She wants to be a soldier. But she can't be. But she missed 20 opportunities, June and January, every year for the last 10 years to have rectified that. And there are many more. So I'm saying to you, when the Prime Minister said, don't waste your time, that's what he's talking about. Use it productively. Use it to grow. Use it to flourish. You never build a dog Kobiat. You never build a scooter. You never build a door. But you have a gun. You have a cutlass. And you only want to maim and kill and destroy and burn down and mash up everything. Prime Minister was saying, look, get that little folly out of your little head and do something useful. And if you can't do it, and your parents couldn't sort you out to do it, to protect the rest of us, the state has to do it. And there are many opportunities that are available to you. So we reestablished all of the youth facilities. And let me tell you a little bit about this pile in front of me that is worth over $100 million. Hence the reason why the Prime Minister sent it to a sub-cabinet of the cabinet, the larger cabinet, called Finance and General Purposes Committee, where we will sit and go through this in fine detail to make sure that we dot our I's, cross our T's, because we know it's for the benefit of the youth, but we have to do it properly. All that we have done for the last 7 years has been done without you, members of the media, being able to level any sustainable or truthful allegation of thieving public money. That's one of the responsibilities of the government, to do these things, find solutions without thieving your money. And some of them who are here talking the loudest, they have question to answer. And if I was a police inspector, I said it before, they'd answer me already. But I'm no police. I have to leave that to others. And I cannot interfere, because that will be crossing the boundaries. So I can only pray. But let me tell you, this one, a team from Trinidad and Tobago went to the Cooperative Republic of Guyana recently, and that team was led by the Minister of Youth Development and National Service, the Member of Parliament for La Hoqueta Talparo, Foster Cummins. And they worked closely with the government of Guyana, and they had a look at their agriculture and agro-processing things. And you would have been hearing the Prime Minister speak about the importance of agriculture a long time, you know. Since the beginning of COVID, we gave out seeds from the National Seed Bank, and we have been encouraging. The Prime Minister took the time to go on TV with a little spade and mess up here, and he loved gardening, show you how we grow lettuce, how we grow pumpkin and bygone and everything, and that inspired the nation. And we are now having a food security issue in the world. And the region, the Prime Minister in his vision, along with his counterparts in the CARICOM, feel that we could avert the crisis of food security challenges. And if we work closely with Guyana, that has some comparative advantages in respect of agriculture, along with Trinidad and Tobago, and Guyana has the land space, we could use the lands in Guyana as our garden, and Guyana could produce food for all the countries of the region, along with that which we do on our own anyway. A strong vision. So he sent his Minister of Youth Development there, because we want to involve the youth in this. Because it's a very lucrative industry, and it's good for all seasons. So they went, and the minister came back, and following his visit and his application of thought, it is envisaged that this youth agricultural shade house project will be a 3-year project targeting 300 young people between the ages of 16 and 35 years, with 3 cohorts of 100 participants annually, commencing in September of 2022. This will include the utilization of 26 acres of Chaguaramas Development Authority held land, which is supposed to be leased to this project for these purposes. And he came to Cabinet to ask for the establishment of the Youth Agricultural Shade House project. And the Cabinet is contemplating this. This project is estimated at about $42 million, and it is within the contemplation of the Cabinet as I speak to you in a very serious way for the youth, and one and the same time for the benefit of all Trinidad and Tobago, because we produce more healthy food, we'll all be better off. We'll make life for the Minister of Health easier later on with the diabetes and all kinds of stuff, lifestyle diseases. We'll generate economic activity. We'll utilize our young people, as you have seen, and everything is good about it. Nothing bad could come of it. At the same time, we are contemplating in the Cabinet, and Cabinet is asked to agree to approve expenditure in the tune of about $28 million to be incurred for the upgrade and construction of buildings for the National Service Complex at Mausika. We have identified the area in Mausika, the old Teachers College, and we want to upgrade it and repurpose it to establish a national youth project, because the ministry is Ministry of Youth Development and National Service, under the leadership of the Defense Force, to teach these young people who will pass through the annals of that place, the hallowed halls of that place, concepts of patriotism, nobility, honesty, foreign to the UNC, of course, dignity, foreign to them too. Patriotism, as I said, a sense of protection of the elderly, protection for the children, respect for government property, respect for public spaces, respect for people's spaces. These values are what we will pursue in the national service component. A bill of $28 million, if Cabinet agrees, that too, Mr. Rodney Charles, is being done for youth. This one, at a cost of roughly $21 million, to upgrade and expand the former El Dorado Youth Camp at Cecilia Street in El Dorado, a girls' youth camp at the time, which the UNC, when he was nowhere, but his friends were, the member for Separia and others, when they shut it down, we are about to restart it. And by the way, members of the media, all of this in the most difficult economic times that you have ever experienced in Trinidad and Tobago. The refurbishment of the Red House, Stallmeyer Castle, Meal Flares, President's House, 2 inter-island ferries. You can't tell me the last time you heard anybody complain about getting from Tobago to Trinidad. Air bridge, sea bridge, fixed. You own 2 vessels now. 2 vessels for the Coast Guard, in addition to the others they have. And I can tell you as minister, fighting to repair and to maintain the others, to protect the borders of this country. As the police commissioner embarks on a very robust gun cleanup campaign for all them illegal machine guns that always bark in day and night and causing stress, and all Rodney Charles will do is get on the newspapers and say, 10 murders, how much murders, how much murders? He could afford to do that. Our job is not to just do that, to read a newspaper and regurgitate it, to stir your emotions. Our business is to do something about it. And we are quite clear that the young people need to be guided away, hence the reason for these kinds of efforts. So we want to re-establish that youth camp. So he could talk, we will do. And this too is before the cabinet as I speak to you. This one, all of them is between the month of June and July for the cabinet's contemplation. And this one, giving you in full, you know. Cabinet agreed in June of 2021 to the assessment, cabinet agreement and confirmation, to the assessment, refurbishment, upgrade of 6 youth facilities under the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service, namely the St. James Youth Facility, the Lavantel Youth Facility in my constituency, Basilon Street, which is in Stuart Young's, the member for Port of Spain, North St. Anne's West's constituency, but he and I and Keith Scotland understand that the lands between Queen's Park East and the Quasi, including Fabu Village and all of that, and including sea lots down in the south, it has no wire fence, no boundary. Every problem in those areas is ours. And every contribution we make is ours. As members of parliament, they are our children. And we are out to protect them. So who shut down, shut down. We rebuilding, we refurbishing. And this one includes, as I say, Basilon Street, Malik, out there in Barataria, California, and Los Bajos down in the southwest. Cabinet agreed that. And this particular approach to the cabinet identifies that a contractor has been identified to do the St. James Youth Facility. A contractor has been identified after due process to do the Los Bajos facility. A contractor has been identified to do Malik. And this particular note is to get on with the work at the St. James Youth Facility at a cost of $2.8 million. Rodney Charles, all for the youth. So you can afford to quack, 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 quack. We have work to do. And when you will come glibly on Sunday morning and just talk, I am obliged to come here this morning and place the record straight and hope that you, the members of the media, will not be impressed by his bravado and his loud talking, but understand that work is taking place, serious work. And that's not all that we do for youth, you know. I tell you this, in the Ministry of National Security, when we understand that we have to sharpen our claws to deal with criminals and criminality and to interdict human traffickers and drugs and guns from coming in here to create the mayhem that Rodney Charles will only read about. As I tell you, we can't just read, we have to do. And we're doing that. But we have in this ministry responsibility for the cadet force. And I heard Rodney Charles say stupidly yesterday, please forgive me. I was about to ask Madam Speaker to forgive me, but I'm not in no parliament. If I was in the parliament, she'd have told me I can't say that. And sometimes I just want to say it more often. I could say it here. Stupidly. Tell us that since the last midterm review and the last budget, I hear him regurgitating this about the cadet force and the cadet force. Well, let me tell him, in 2018, we allocated $6 million for expenditure on that youth program, that one youth program in the Ministry of National Security called the Cadet Force. He don't have to tell me about the value of it. I was a cadet sergeant. And all that I am today, everything that I might have been today, I can tell you truthfully, had its roots in the discipline and the training I had at the hands of the likes of Sergeant John Sandy from the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, who went on to be Chief of Defense Staff, and Sergeant Robinson, and Sergeant Major Bento, and others who, as a young man, guided me like so many thousands of others through those paces until I became an outstanding cadet and started nurturing young ones after me. Some I met last Saturday, and they recalled how it used to be a little rough, but we did that in our little way. So we understand the value. 2019, $4.9 million. 2020, $2.9 million, because as you know, in the economic challenges we had, every ministry had to take a cut, a haircut. And this department in this ministry also had to be cut. But for 2022, we've gone up a notch, and the allocation is $4.2 million. Cadet Force. As for police youth clubs, every single division of the 9 of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, Roxborough in Tobago, is the creme de la creme. Everybody. When I was Minister of Youth Development, I got all the youth clubs from the fire service, from the police service. I got the National Specialized Youth Training Officers from the Defense Force who run the CCC, the MILAT, and they together. And everybody acknowledges when it comes to the youth clubs, the Roxborough Youth Club in Tobago is the one to watch, under a superintendent of police called Hazel, who I met yesterday in Tobago. So I've asked all of them to pay attention to what they do and level up all of the others to that high standard for the benefit of the youth. And as I told you already, in the Ministry of National Security, we used to have the CCC, the MILAT, and the MIPAD programs where they come out of there with discipline, 5 CXC, 6 CXC passes, having gone in without any. Sometimes their parents come to us as members of parliament. I remember one in particular, Mr. Hinds, do something about this boy. I can't handle him. these programs, but they are now under the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service. The Geriatric Adolescent Program, and all of these carry serious allocations. This Geriatric Adolescent Youth Program, where they take youth and train them to deal with elderly and people who are not so well, that's $27 million. The Retiree Adolescent Program, $1.6 million. The National Youth Development Apprenticeship Centers, $18 million. All of these are under the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service. It continues. These youth centers that I just spoke to you about allocated $7 million in the estimates. But if Cabinet agrees to these, the Minister of Finance has to find a way. That is why I compliment him in these tough times. He is the one who will have to find the money to do this. And the money is not sitting down doing nothing. It's a cutting and a contriving as we make this quilt. He has to cut and he has to fit. The President Awards Scheme, very inspirational for young people. I aspired to it when I was a cadet. All of us, $60,000 for that one. Scout Association, we contribute $126,000 to that. Girl Guides, right? All of these under the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services. They spend about $7 billion in social programs. And that by definition involves youth. Because if you parents, you pay pension, you know how much children, grandchildren living off of the senior citizens grant. Free medical care, glasses, medical care, school uniform, school books, all of that in the Ministry of Social Development for the youth. Mr. Rodney Charles. So he talking about cadets. Pinny-winny aspect of all that we do, you know. But ignorance reigns in this country and posturing has a premium. Glitz and glamour and old talk. Right? All under the ministry. The Young Men's Christian Association, Young Women's Christian Association, the Serve All Life Centers, the Serve All Human Development and Skills Program, $14 million, $3 million, and so the story goes. In the Ministry of Education, which as I told you before, is all about youth, largely about youth, from early childhood, primary, secondary, university level. Last week I went in the Prime Minister's office to conduct business, and I was introduced to the staff in the Cabinet Secretariat for the first time. And I was so pleased when I saw some young people inside there. 3 national scholarship winners, having secured their national scholarships by virtue of their academic excellence at the secondary school and Cape level. They went to universities wherever they chose at taxpayers' expense, and under the agreement they come back and now they're giving service to you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And yet I heard ignorant Rodney Charles glibly say this morning, a failed education system, and not one of you will raise those questions with him. People in Barbados, people in Jamaica, people in America, Canada, listening to a member of parliament, a big man, not a rasta, with a clean countenance. And I've told him in the parliament, it appears as though what is on the outside is also on the inside. He just brands your education system as failed in the same press conference Sunday, and not one of you will take him up. But thousands of our young people, the vast majority of them, make use of this seamless education program, of which I'm a product, of which all of you media people with your degrees and your high qualifications are products. And he calls it failed. And if all didn't take him on, I came here this morning to point out his ignorance, his glib folly, which is their want. Like they just chain up and wait to hear what the Prime Minister have to say, what Hinds have to say, what Young have to say, what Camille have to say, what Imbert have to say, and as they hear it, they just jump out. But he on top of the pack, you know. like an animated object. All of this for young people. The Ministry of Education, textbook rental, primary and secondary schools. National Training Agency, 10 million. Laventille Technology and Continuing Education Center that I, Fitzgerald Hinds, saw the birth of. In 2001, 2002, as soon as we went to government on that day before Christmas Day, I went to the Prime Minister, Patrick Manning, may his soul rest in peace. He has contributed substantially to the development of this country. A man with a vision. May his soul rest in peace. I said, Prime Minister, there's a old rumbond opposite to the Beetham down there. I would like us to get access to it for the children of Laventille, for the people. He said, Mr. Hinds, you're knocking on an open door. Sent me to then Minister Pigott, who had responsibility in his ministry for the building, and the rest was history. I was part of a committee led by Professor Dyer of the University of the West Indies, and we worked for months along with elements of the community and different educational experts. And we came up with this Laventille. I gave it its name. There were options and they chose the one I offered. The Laventille Technology and Continuing Education Center that has churned out thousands of young people. Truthfully, not enough from Laventille. In my view. $8 million. The help program, you're doing tertiary education, you're not working, you need money to carry it through, here's a loan. Moratorium before you start paying for it when you get your job. $8 million allocated for that. The HYPE program, helping youth prepare for employment, $12 million. Still going, all for the youth. In the Ministry of Education, the National Schools Dietary Program, in other words, providing breakfast, lunches for the children who come to the school. And many benefit from it, thousands of them. At one time in 2018, 2019, $203 million, $239 million. In 2020, COVID, things slowed down from the school compound, and during that time, we as MPs, all 41 of us, gave out hampers and so on with an understanding that now the children were not in school, we'll reach them in their homes, and we were giving out hampers. We had mothers, and one day I had 55 mothers come to receive their entitlement in that strong government policy, because we cut it down in the school for obvious reasons. So in 2021, we allocated $12 million, and now that school has started to open up again, $41 million to support the children, the youth, Mr. Rodney Charles. And the YTEP program, $38 million, all under the Ministry of Education. And the NEHRS, $15 million. And the GATE program, $400 million. Look at here. That is in addition to the national scholarships, 100 of them, costing you, through your government, millions of dollars to support our young people. And Rodney Charles just jumped up from a bar Sunday morning and talking about cadets. You see why I have to call him ignorant with a capital I? And then coming to speak through you to the public, and not one of you will raise these matters with him. And you didn't do it, so I have to do it. Early childhood care and education, $3.5 million. Primary education alone, $1.1 billion. Secondary education, $1.25 billion. Tech-Voc training, $1.5 million. All together, $2.398 billion, all for the young people of Trinidad and Tobago. Rodney Charles. But yet he comes and songs impressively foolish, like if nobody doing anything. And I don't want to bore you, but I have a list of all the police youth clubs which I could make available to any one of you of the media. Long list of police youth clubs all over the country, including on my constituency. All with the intention to assist the young people and to put them on a straight and narrow path. So Rodney Child says he will cut, the UNC will cut the budget of the SSA in half. And when he does that, he will spend that money on the cadet force. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in this country in the past, and we saw what Rodney Childs and his friends, before they got thrown out of Rienzi complex. And they're now somewhere else. We saw what they did with the security platform in this country, and you've heard it 1,000 times. But for Rodney Childs' benefit, I will rehearse some of it today, just to remind him and to remind you what happened. The SSA, the Strategic Services Agency, was established in 1995. The events of 1990 revealed, just like the events of 9/11 led to some rethinking in the United States, the events of 1990 led to rethinking here. Intelligence gathering. And so in 1995, the SSA was born. Its mandate at that time was to deal with illicit trafficking of dangerous drugs and drug-related crimes. In 2016, under the watch of Prime Minister Rowley, recognizing the changes that were taking place in the society, the substantial contribution that they make, the critical importance of it, we broadened their mandate in Act number 4 of 2016, just after coming to government. So while others were breaking down, we were building up. Like the master builders we are. And we have expanded their mandate to all serious crimes. Kidnapping, human trafficking, all serious crimes. So the SSA is now fully engaged in providing intelligence for our law enforcement and others who must benefit from it, information that it gathers. They centralize information gathering, and they cooperate with all arms of law enforcement and share it. They develop strategic intelligence and make recommendations to the government on the formulation of policies in respect of our response as a nation to crime. They prepare crime prevention strategies. They advise on policy formulation, among other things, many other things. They assist in identifying sophisticated criminal activity. They do that. And they use a number of ways in which they do that. They use human intelligence, informants, people who talk to them. And they use other means, electronic means as well. We're not unfamiliar with that. Very expensive business. And they must do that, as the Prime Minister explained so succinctly and so well last Friday, so that they could listen, that they could see, that they could feel threats by virtue of their intelligence and advise law enforcement, who will now take action to protect you. Prime Minister explained that last Friday, you know. That's what they do. They work with international partners too, because a lot of the crime, organized as it is is transnational. Human trafficking is transnational. Drug trafficking is transnational. Arms trafficking is transnational. Last week, we had a vessel came in here, working with our partners. We identified the vessel. We kept it under watch. And we worked with our international partners, and they intercepted the vessel. 465,000 kilograms of cocaine going to poison populations around the world, including ours, and make our children, our youth, vagrants, lost. We were able to help. It was intercepted, persons arrested, and they will have their day in court. Last week, you would have seen members of the media at a warehouse in this country. Intelligence operated again, and they were able to find, I think, about 500 kilograms of ketamine. Persons were not on that occasion arrested. Sometimes you get the people with it, sometimes the packages remain unclaimed, so the work continues. But it's good news in any event. If you get the gun, or you get the drugs, and you don't get a person, ideally you want people with it, you know. But if you don't get that, you thank God you took it off the street. So what would have poisoned your children is now safely in law enforcement hands to be destroyed at the appropriate time. And that gun with 17 rounds of ammunition, every one of those 17 can have lethal consequences. It is in safe hands of law enforcement, and therefore it's a good achievement. Mr. Mann says he will cut the budget of the SSA by 50%, and he will spend it on cadets. But I've just shown you a tremendous amount is spent on the cadets and all the other youth programs. So it's not mutually exclusive, you know. All has to be done. And the SSA is as important as all the other things I've raised. And therefore to talk stupidness that you will just cut the budget and spend on cadets really supports my theory. And if I was in court, I would have said, my lord, that it is ignorance, emptiness, stupidity. And these are people who, when they came to office in 2010, they ran riot with the intelligence in this country, you know. So when I heard him, all I saw again was like deja vu. I saw 2010 all over again, and I fear for my country. That is why I could never vote for them. They are dangerous. Because all I saw was if they get their hands on national security again, they will dismantle it again. Because Rodney Charles is now attacking the intelligence agency first up, and without knowing, you ask him today what is the allocation, he doesn't have a clue. But he knows he'll cut it by 50% and spend it on cadets. These are the people. We had a blimp. We didn't buy it. Mr. Manning and the cabinet didn't buy it just so. It was the defense mechanism in this country. It was law enforcement who said to Mr. Manning's government, we need that. And it was gathering intelligence as that technology allowed at that time. And they were so ignorant. When the member for Siparia became prime minister in 2010, the first question, and if I'm telling a lie or I'm wrong after those who were on the table with her, first meeting of the National Security Council, she asked them in her ignorance whether the blimp could see through galvanized. And she had a galvanized roof. She was worried about what it would have seen. And if it could see through concrete. They wrecked that. We had an offshore patrol vessel system, ladies and gentlemen. Not just 3 vessels, you know, for which we spent millions of your money, you know, and sent Coast Guard officers for months in the UK to train, to understand the vessel, understand how she works, the 3 of them, so that they could come and take positions around Trinidad and Tobago to fight international narco and arms trafficking and human trafficking. They wrecked that. Today, those vessels, as you know, are sailing in the Brazilian Navy. So much so that they are called the Trinidad model, because they were custom built, specially built for Trinidad. That gone. And I say it's a system, it's not 3 vessels. Those vessels had interceptor capacity. They had interceptors on them. So with the national radar system, which I can report to you today, is 100% functional as I speak. And it wasn't always so. But today I could tell you, it is 100% functional. And that doesn't only provide protection for Trinidad, it provides protection for our neighbors in the region. And so personnel who are sufficiently skilled left Trinidad within the last few months and went to test and to make sure the other centers in the other islands, because the thing transnational, Barbados going through a roller coaster with crime as we speak. You heard the Prime Minister wailing in pain recently. Jamaica going through turmoil with crime. St. Lucia going through turmoil with crime. Illegal firearms. Murders are plenty. Trinidad is not unique. In the United States. All over. But they behave as only Trinidad. And it's Rowley who create all of that. And calling on Rowley to resign. What foolishness. Right? These vessels had interceptor capacity. So when the radar pick up something coming from Venezuela, and it takes 22 minutes to speedboat from Venezuela into a port in Trinidad, you know, on the north coast, on the south coast, they do it. So as the radar pick it up, as the radar is now picking up vessels, bringing illegals into the country, the vessel is already stationed out there, and the closest wanted dispatches an interceptor, and you could intercept the vessel. Because sometimes we see them, they reach on the beach in those days, you know, but you're not in the area, so they scatter. And their friends in Trinidad and their family have vehicles waiting, and as they reach in the vehicles, off they go. Well, we have to find solutions, and we are finding solutions, and the SSA plays a role. Because all of a certain kind of equipment is housed with the SSA as a matter of government policy. And in addition to the interceptor capacity, they also had helicopter capacity. So the helicopters, with trained men, sufficiently armed, would have gone over those vessels, as I saw with the vessel I told you that left here, which was intercepted by the French, which we had targeted for the cocaine. They sent the videos. We had a look at how the operation went down. Helicopters hover, watch. And then the interceptors come in, they talk to the captain, tell him, anchor down, and we are coming on board. And so it is, to protect you. They destroyed all of that. They kept the 4 AW-139 helicopters that were supposed to be launched off these vessels. And it got so bad, they literally put a bar and a television inside a one. And it was used like a pram to take a big baby from place to place, from Tobago to Trinidad and to Philippines, making noise, disturbing the whole neighborhood all over the day and night. And you would have reported about the Archelios family living in the back of a certain residence in Philippines, who was publicly saying about the scandal and the noise and the rum drinking and the bacchanal that was taking place in a certain location in Philippines. And they have since sold the house to someone associated with someone. And I reported that transaction to the FIB, and the matter is under investigation, because the house is no longer owned by the Archelios family, it is owned by somebody else. But you, the media, never ask a question about that, not once. And this is probably the 3rd time I'm saying that in the parliament and outside. Not a question. I'm not criticizing you. I just think that you get distracted with the noise and the fluff of the likes of Rodney Charles, and you lose sight of the real issues. Hence the reason for my presence today. I know I sound like a top-level journalist, but I'm not. They dismantled the Special Anti-Crime Unit. They make all kind of noise about it. It's not legal. It's wrong. Had prison officers, had fire officers, had police officers, had members of the defense force. All of them legitimate office holders sworn in their own right from their different units, working under one roof, just like the IATF, police and soldiers working together. Nothing wrong with it. But they scream about it whole time because they didn't want it. You had to be polygraphed and integrity tested to be a part. And some who were screaming loud couldn't get in. And they attack it and they attack it and sought and sought. And as soon as they came to office, they started. But SWAT wasn't only fighting crime. Kidnappings had become a problem. I was in the parliament. People complaining all over the country. Businessmen in Central and South and Port of Spain. Kidnapping, all kind of thing. And SWAT took after it and removed from 51 kidnappings for ransom down to 0. Intelligence-driven, hard work, vision, energy, purpose, work. They did that. And SWAT was not just doing that. SWAT was also teaching other elements of law enforcement some of the modern cutting-edge best practice techniques in crime fighting. They had an institution in Sagaramas and in Komuto that was doing that. They dismantled SWAT and weakened our efforts as a nation to fight and respond to crime. And now coming to talk. And today, as I told you all before, when we go to Parliament, whether it's bail bill or any bill, imagine I am trying to pass a private security bill. There are 50,000 private security officers in the country. And we say if you bring them in the loop, properly train them, not just you come, you get work Friday and Monday morning, you're in a uniform somewhere and you don't know squeak. Proper training, proper equipment, especially firearm training, battle training. And then you build a bridge between the private security and the state security. With 50,000 of them, there's 100,000 more eyes, 200,000 more ears, 200,000 more eyes, 200,000 more hands, 200,000 more feet, and 100,000 more brains. And together, as happens in some countries, but you know what? Took it to Parliament. It went to a joint select committee, had Lee and Munilal and them and Saddam Hussein and them in the joint select committee. We spent months at a time, Parliament prorogue, recess. We save it from one session to the next. We come back with it. We continue to work. We went back to the larger Parliament after working with them in joint select committee. And when we go on the floor to debate it, thinking that we had their support, not them. They refused to support it. So we had to take out the provisions that made provision for drug testing private security officers, because you don't want to know. You go in a bank to draw your money or to do a transaction and the private security officer in there under cocaine, under molly, under some amphetamine, under ketamine, and he start to see everybody and think is fruits and start to shoot at it with his gun, you know. We want to have them drug tested annually to make sure that they are sound, as we want to do with law enforcement too. But that required special majority, the UNC not supporting that. So we had to do a rework and take out that provision so that we could pass it without them. And I said to the Parliament last week, every time the government plans some legislation or some policy to deal with crime and criminals, in addition to the criminals, we have to consider the UNC in the same bracket to pass the legislation, because them in the Parliament obstructing it first. And sometimes you really wonder, what is their agenda? And why? Why they don't want law enforcement so? Why they hate police so? Why they don't want good policy so? These are the questions I ask myself. Why did they dismantle our security network as they did? They hired a rookie. I'm just reminding you because you know all of this. A clerk they take and they put at the head of the SIA. They fired 27 experienced ex-police, ex-soldier, British people. They move all. And they take a clerk who was close to the head of the fountain at that time and put her in charge of your intelligence apparatus. A young woman by the name of Reshmi Ramnarayan. She's no longer called that. She changed her name by deed poll. They discontinued an agreement we had with the providers, the hostile people who we bought those vessels from recently. We had 6 FPCs, fast patrol vessels, and I told you why we need fast patrol vessels that could outrun the criminals. We had an agreement with them, hostile, for their maintenance. They scrapped that contract, and today the vessels are where they are. And I am now, as minister, reworking an arrangement to try to see if we could get them back on the road. But of course, they would have deteriorated substantially since then. But that is my headache after the disaster of the UNC. And now Rodney Charles wants to come. And when I heard him Sunday, I realized they're going to do it all over again. And that is why my vote will be for Keith Rowley and the PNM every time. And I am entitled to mine as you are entitled to yours. But I come from a place of experience. I come from a place of knowledge, sitting in this chair, and I know what is what, and I know who is who, and a lot that I know I can't speak publicly. Trust and believe me. They called a state of emergency. You will remember. The commissioner and his deputy were both out of the country, hadn't a clue. Some cabinet minister apparently made that decision. The police didn't know about it. And when the police got involved was to tell them, lock up like all you're mad. We go find the evidence after. That came out in affidavits in the court because they went and locked up 245 gang members according to them. And up to today, is still paying damages to every one of them and costs to their lawyers. The UNC did that in response to crime in this country when that weekend 11 people died in a Rima. And I see Rodney Charles like a fool this morning on the papers quoting from The Guardian how 8 people died last week and how 8 people died last week. And the place ran amok and it out of control. When it ran amok under the UNC, that is how they solved it. We didn't call no state of emergency today. I've given you a little insight into what we are doing, providing resources, providing training, and inspiring our law enforcement personnel to fight like true soldiers, like real police, like man, in your defense. Because I know part of the problem in my country, one of the missing pieces in this whole thing to get the success we want is work. That is my view. Work. The 2 leaders of the police service wasn't even in the country. And then today they want to come to tell us about political interference. And who the police should investigate for interfering in what and what and what. Foolishness. Foolishness. No police commissioner could truthfully, no public servant, no permanent secretary could truthfully say any one of my colleagues cross boundaries and ask them to do things to embarrass them or compromise them in accordance with the laws or financial regulations in this country. Look, my PS is here. Not one. You haven't heard any complaints about that. You haven't heard any complaints from any business people saying no minister of government shaking down for 10 and 20 and 30%. You don't hear that. It was the one helicopter that was at Camp Kamuto for law enforcement to go around this country, all in the bush. They would go, they will drop down 12 men, they will spend 3 days in the bush, patrol the place, make sure that zone clean.
Change your fate. Start to win at life with $20,000 every month. Win $20,000 every month for 20 years with NLCB's newest game, Win for Life. 6 numbers from 28 plus the cash ball could make you win for life. You deserve a win. Play Win for Life today. Visit NLCBGames.com for details. Players must be 18 years and over. Please play responsibly.
Welcome to this afternoon's Playway Pick 2 and Pick 4 draw, supervised by independent auditors KPMG and presided over by the National Lotteries Control Board. Good luck, everyone.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the NLCB's Playway Pick 2 and Pick 4 draw for Tuesday, 12th July 2022. First we draw this afternoon's Playway number. And the winning number is... the number 3 lucky mark is Carriage number 3. Our Mega Mix machine is loaded with a Mega Ball, a Mega Ultra Ball, Mega Extreme Ball, and 9 white balls. Our Mega payouts are $70 if the Mega Ball calls, $100 should the Mega Ultra Ball call, and $125 if the Mega Extreme Ball calls. Players remember Mega options cost an additional $1 now for a Mega Mix selection. And we have the Mega Ball. As well as the Mega Ultra Ball. Players, Playway number 3, Carriage, has called along with the Mega and the Mega Ultra Balls. Congratulations to our Mega winners. You've won the base payout and your additional Mega winnings. Continue playing Playway Mega Mix, your best bet for value. Next we draw this afternoon's Pick 2 numbers. The first Pick 2 number is 11. Once again, 11. And the second Pick 2 number, number 15. Once again, that's 15. This afternoon's Pick 2 numbers, 11 and 15 in that order. Now for a Pick 2 Mega draw. We've loaded the Mega Ball and 2 white balls. Remember, if a white ball calls, there will be no extra payout. If the Pick 2 Mega Ball calls and players paid an extra $5 minimum on the Mega Ball, not only will they win the base payout, but an additional Mega payout. And we have the Mega Ball. Congratulations, you're a Pick 2 Mega winner. Players Pick 2 numbers 11 and 15 have called in that order with the Mega Ball. Not only have you won your base payout,